This is gonna be a fun one. Actually, no, it's not. So, in doing this Cartoon Network retrospective, there were two shows in particular that I was nervous to revisit. Johnny Bravo and Time Squad. Not because I was afraid of them being a horrible, terrible show or anything. I could handle a show I watched during my childhood ending up bad. No, I was worried that these two shows in particular would have aged poorly. Johnny Bravo got lucky and actually managed to hold up really well, but we're talking about that one next year. This year I picked Time Squad, which unfortunately was not so lucky. Why was I so nervous about this show in particular? Well, it's a show about history. The Time Squad is an organization from the year 100 million, dedicated to making sure the course of time runs smoothly. We follow one particular unit, Todd Russell, his robot the Lawrence 3000, as they kidnap an orphan from the year 2002 and take him on all kinds of historical adventures. And before I begin my rather harsh critique, I'll give a few compliments about the things about the show that I really do like. The premise of it is very interesting. Instead of a time traveler accidentally altering the course of history, that's more or less the job of the Time Squad. History is already screwed up for reasons that they only kind of handwave, and so they need to make sure that things go the way that they were supposed to. I like this idea, I just wish that the show thought it out a little bit more. Our heroes here have to help make sure that things go exactly according to plan, according to our real history. Sometimes that's like helping Julius Caesar make Rome a great city, or making sure that William Shakespeare writes plays that he's known for, instead of children's works. But sometimes that also means, I don't know, making sure that Blackbeard is a pillaging pirate, making sure that Ivan the Terrible is the Tsar of Russia, making sure that Al Capone is not a clown and instead a gangster, making Edgar Allan Poe depressed.
Deep down my heart could only concede, now as nighttime turns to dawn, my thoughts of joy are dead and gone.
So, Time Squad isn't an educational show, obviously. This is not Hysteria. You're not using this to ace your classes or anything. Actually, come to think of it, the big problem here is that the more you know about history, the more into the subject you are, the worse this show will get to you. The last episode about Season 1 is about the Hatfields and McCoys, and the Time Squad needs to get them bickering and feuding again. Which, you know, in the real world, that led to several deaths. In their episode about Abraham Lincoln, there's just an offhand reference to Lincoln's theater plans.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I think I'll pick up Mrs. Lincoln and head over to the theater for an evening of light entertainment.
And like, as someone with more than a 6th grade education in history, it's kind of impossible to not notice how many people our main characters just send to their deaths. We gotta make sure that Woodrow Wilson is elected president in our Scooby-Doo parody. That won't backfire in the slightest, I'm sure. So Time Squad is obviously a kid's show. They're not going to be talking about the literally millions of deaths that the main character's actions directly cause in history. Gotta make sure that Amelia Earhart takes her flight.
And if you see the Bermuda Triangle along the way, you fly into it. You fly right into it.
Our attitude towards historical figures and just history in general has changed a lot in the past couple of decades, and so a lot of these moments just come across as very, very cringeworthy, like try-hard edgelord. So one of the most standout episodes of the show, and I don't mean that positively, is portraying the Allies in World War II as unapologetic nudists. In 2001, that was a ridiculous comedy skit. In 2025, considering the state of the world we're in, portraying the people who fought the Nazis as unapologetic nudists kinda seems a little bit disrespectful. At the best of times, Time Squad comes across as naive.
It took some doing, but we talked Karl Marx out of building the world's largest igloo and got him back to writing the Communist Manifesto.
At the worst of times, the show feels downright offensive. And that's even ignoring the episodes that are, like, actually blatantly racist.
Come on, Sir Henry. Remember your African tribesman dialect.
Oh, cannibalistic African tribes. Oh, no. A lot of the times, it comes across as the show trying to go over the line twice, and just not quite sticking the landing. So we have these random fucked up implications that come out of nowhere, and kinda taint your enjoyment of the show. We can't show you what happens when the Time Squad helps invent communism, so we're just gonna mention it in passing. To tell you the truth, the fact that this is a kid's show on the Cartoon Network is probably its biggest limiting factor. Under the hood, I think the show really does want to get into these dark and demented implications and really revel in the chaos. But because it's a kid's show on a kid's network, you can't really show all the death and the consequences of the characters' actions with standards and practices hanging over your nose. So the whole show is in this weird null space that just makes you randomly very uncomfortable. All of this does sound very similar to an argument that I made in the past, the turning red argument, but it's actually the opposite complaint. See, Time Squad is what would happen if Turning Red did mention 9/11 randomly and it had equally as much to do with the actual plot. This show does that kind of stuff a lot. Time Squad is not earnest enough to come across as respectful, but it's not demented enough to come across as funny. So you get moments like putting Gandhi in a jail cell because he'd rather tap dance instead of lead the Indian independence movement. These moments are frequent, and they make you really look at the show sideways, like seeing implications that probably aren't there. It's ironic that a show about time travel is one of the most poorly aged things that I've ever seen. So there's Larry. From what I can tell, Larry was meant to be an LGBT character, because he's written a lot like the LGBT characters from the time. Because this is a cartoon on a kid's network from 2001, they couldn't say a character was gay, so their way around the censorship was to basically give these kind of characters literally every gay stereotype that existed in 2001. At least, that's what Larry became in Season 2. Larry is on par for characters of the era, but looking back, I would not be surprised if some people found a character with so many stereotypes a little bit cringe. The strangest thing about Time Squad is the show is at its best when it is not dealing with history. The only times that the show actually manages to be funny is when they're on the space station, and we get insights to the characters' daily lives. My favorite episodes of the whole show have very little to do with time travel at all, like the episode where Larry gets a downgrade and drives Tud Russell insane with burgers. I mean, it's better than the episode where the three of them just stand still and do nothing for 3 minutes. Or the episode where Montezuma is a bad stand-up comic. Honestly, a gay couple adopting a kid on a space station is a fine idea for a premise. You just have to drop the time travel to...
George W. Bush. Who the heck is that?
Oh yeah. So in the finale, they go see George W. Bush, who was president at the time, in 2002. The finale is bad. Half of the episode is just Otto getting tortured by a nun, in once again not funny ways, and the entire show ends with Otto agreeing to let Tud Russell make him miserable.
Twine? What happened to tax cuts for the rich? Subsidizing giant corporations?
The world is a vastly different place now if that's all that Bush could have been criticized for. In 2002. In my opinion, Time Squad is just one of the most uncomfortable, clueless shows that I have ever seen. And honestly, it's one that goes into the "we will never talk about this again" category.